surgeries?
Yeah.
Specifically?
Yeah, just before that, I just want to comment one thing on Dustin Brown. For us upstairs to have that type of leadership, Todd came to me during that series. It was funny. We talk every day about lineups and everything, and he goes, the biggest leader we got going right now is Dustin Brown. So I think once he got the retirement part over at the end of the year, he really took pride in what he was going to do during the playoffs. So we're so fortunate to have him for so many years, and captain of 2 Stanley Cup teams. There's not a lot more that we need to say. He's been everything to the franchise, but I just want to make sure I mention because I hadn't really been out in front before that. So, Arvi has a herniated disc. He's having surgery tomorrow morning. So it flared up 5 minutes into practice before the very first game. So remember, he came out, did a couple laps, just twisted the wrong way, and so it was a herniated disc. Tried to treat it, tried to come back. We decided as a group with John Meyer and Kinger and medical side a couple days ago that he was going to go forward with surgery regardless of how games haven't played out. So he'll go in tomorrow morning for that.
Recovery?
I think it's 3 to 5 months,
Training camp?
Yes. I would expect so. He may be limited, but that's the time frame, and that's why the surgery wasn't going to be prolonged anymore.
Is it a discectomy, or do you know what type of procedure?
Yes, a microdiscectomy, I think, is exact procedure. Kinger and that, but that's what it would be for a herniated disc.
Who else needs?
As of now, they just did. I don't think there's any surgeries planned. We had 3 players with separated shoulders during the first round playing with them. I don't want to get too much in specifics, but that's the toll it takes in the playoffs. And we're not the only team, believe me, I'm watching these playoffs. But for our guys to have to do that, it's so important for other players to see that and see how hard it is.
Do you deem this season a success because you made the playoffs?
In a part, we had to get in. We wanted to get in. That was something we've talked about. Ultimate success is always winning and continued winning. We've got a lot to work on, a lot to build on. What it does, it really paints a picture of, I guess, what we learn about our team. You can only learn so much in the regular season until you're put in a position of playoffs. And I think a lot of us forgot how important that first day of playoffs really is. It's a whole different mindset. It's a whole different game. The head-to-head competitions and everything that the players have to go through. So in that part, having that and going into that, we need to do that, yes.
I have one other housekeeping question.
Yeah.
Matt Fialto's around or called up.
No, it was just some stuff with Jonathan Quick, but nothing that was. Listen, we did it as precautionary. There was no way he was coming out. I know that when I was watching him. So it was more precautionary, but nothing of substance at all.
Drew said if the team advanced, there's absolutely no way that he wasn't playing. I know you're laughing. So what were those conversations like with Drew telling you he's playing?
Well, he came in, what was it, game 4 or 5. Oh, it was game, I think it was game 5 we won or whatever. He came in my office with his cast off. He's like, look, I can move it. I was like, go, Drew, you got a few more months. So was really nice to see. Like a lot of times in my experiences with players and players of his stature, when they're injured, they feel really out of it and they feel like they're letting everybody down. He was around the team more than any player I've ever seen. And it was really nice. And, you saw some snapshots of him in the hallway or whatever and that, but it was genuine. Like he was very excited and was around, but just shows that type. It's hard for players to do that when they're not playing.
Rob, where is Sean Walker in his recovery?
He just where he needs to be, skating. There was no chance of him coming back whatsoever. We knew that. He should have a full summer of recovery in that aspect. ACL, that's the right time frame, and he's right on that.
I asked Todd about scoring, lowest shooting percentage team in the league.
Yeah.
He says it's scoring no one. But are you going to be aggressive outside? Can you solve this just internally, or do you have to go externally and score?
It may be both. I do think internally, so what I think is kind of happened, and you see it, the system and the style was of importance a couple years ago. Get that in place. That structure helped us get in the playoffs this year and helped us. Now you got to add some skill to that, And through that, can be internal, can be external. We've done both in the off seasons, and we'll continue. Everything has, and we said this last year, everything's about getting better again and keep moving forward.
You hit 3 home runs last offseason. How much
Yeah.
more pressure does that put on you this time around to even, hit
Yeah.
1 home run?
Well, I think we had more holes last year, so we had more opportunities to get players into that system that can help. I think some of that has to be internally driven now. We've had some draft picks the last basically 3 years. There were some before that, but the focus the last 3 years. So now they're getting a couple years of the American League and getting taste of the NHL. So I think internally that drive should be there too.
Not LA specific, but on the injury front, can you give us any update at all on Turcotte?
I suffered another concussion. Unfortunately, he's had to deal with a couple of those this year. Came back, got hit there in that Colorado game early in the game. Diagnosed as a concussion, wouldn't have been able to finish this season regardless of how Ontario went on. So we're going to have to step back and make sure we do all the right precautions medically with him to get him healthy. His agent being Pat Brisson is a big benefit to us because he's gone through it many times with some high-profile players. But as a group, we've got to get him healthy.
Even though it's a different team, does that sort of give you a reminder, though, about what needs to happen for the LA club in terms of toughness going into next season with these younger players coming in and needing some protection?
Yeah, for sure. And Ontario unfortunately lost there last night. There was some things at the deadline we looked at trying to get players to help that, but also help the Kings. And unfortunately, we were banged up enough that we couldn't do a lot of different things there. So, but as far as those types of players in that, yes, we're concerned on a lot of fronts. We understand there's some needs on our team we got to address.
Another Ontario question is, Chris do enough to be considered to be the head coach there next year?
I haven't even talked to Glenn or Seals about that situation yet.
Edler and Mott are free agents.
Yep.
Are you interested in bringing either one back?
At some time we're going to have to, and we really haven't sat as a staff and addressed all the needs. We have to be concerned at the players that have kind of broke through on the back end. You got Walker and Doughty that haven't played this year for the most part, so they're going to be in that lineup too. But there'll be a time when we sit and kind of go over the strategy of the players that are currently with the team here and what we're going to do going forward.
You've been methodical about contracts. Is now Kempe the priority to get that done just budget-wise, you know what you're working with?
Yep, just on Kempe, we approached them during the year, but we also talked to their side and understand we didn't want to disrupt what he was doing. Sometimes you get into contract negotiations during the season and it weighs on a player here and there. So that was put off. That for sure is a priority. He had a tremendous year for us and became very dependable in that role. But you also understand the time frame. Like it's taken some time, and there's been ups and downs. But he really pushed through this year. But yeah, we will get on that for sure.
He says he wants to sign long term.
Yep.
You want to sign him long term.
Yeah. I mean, he's done what he's had to do here. We'll look at those options at all. But again, the reason there was no progress during the season was because both sides said, don't want to disrupt anything he's doing. We knew it was a priority, and it will be here going forward.
Could that almost hurt you though, right? He's putting up more goals and
every game he kept scoring. No, but good for him. You want to reward those guys. They're going to play like that. That's what we expect out of them.
When you talk about improving internally,
Yep.
When you're evaluating the players that you currently have in the system, how much weight do you give to their performance in the playoffs?
Well, for sure, because that's when the head-to-head matchups, and like I said, you can't replicate that during the regular season. No matter if it's a game at the end of the year where if you don't win, you're not getting in. It doesn't have the height of the sensitivity of the playoffs. So yes, that would come into effect for sure.
Maybe not as imminent as an arbitration eligible guy or UFA, but any indication of direction of things with Anderson? Assuming he'll be back next year, but what are you guys looking at?
Well, he's
a bridge deal, longer deal. What are the direction?
That I'm not sure on just yet, but at the same level of importance as it can be. These players have been drafted, have been developed, and now have become primary players on our team. Yeah, that's a natural progression.
Kind of along those lines, I wanted to ask you about kind of transformation of the defense from year to year. Last year, a couple injuries was a big problem. This year, you lose your whole decor, weather it. You've got Clark and Gruns and Faber guys on the way. just how that D kind of develops a depth so quickly, and what do you see moving forward out of the group?
Well, they were kind of thrust into it. I'm not sure we factored in, Spence playing as much as he has this year due to some injuries. And at different times there, I thought Sean Dursey also stepped up in that role. And, with Drew and Walker out, the power play point and being in that position, Dursey really took off with that, but it also shows that these players are capable when they get in the lineup. Credit to development staff, and I think obviously with Trent Yawney and Todd's relationship, he's very good with these young D, where he begins to trust them and he gets the trust from them also.
Rob, they're asked, everybody here, through the guys who we've had through here today, getting to this, the point, getting to the playoffs. Is taking it to the next level harder than getting to where you've gotten to this point?
Yeah, because the playoffs are so hard. It's one thing to get in, but again, I'm not sure you can take a game in the regular season that was even remotely close to the first game of the playoffs. So now that the natural progression, the next step is having success in the playoffs, and but that is difficult.
How's it feel not to be in the draft lottery?
Yeah. Well, on one hand, you want that high pick, but I sure didn't want to get back on TV in front of that, so I'm taking it.
Is that an option that you might use if you want to improve the team?
We've always looked at those options. I think you look at, whatever you can improve, there's different ways to do it, whether it's prospects, players currently, or draft picks, or draft capital.
We're
Rob,
jumping
circle
around.
back. Go ahead.
We're jumping around here, but
Yeah.
how would you evaluate Cal's season?
Cal Peterson?
Yeah.
I think it was a good season. There was times when he did take control of the team in that. It's clear that Jonathan Quick was the starter coming into the playoffs and is competitive as anybody on our team. So I like the look of our goaltender situation because they are competing with each other to see who goes. But like I said, I think when we came down that stretch, Jonathan proved that's what he does in those big moments, and he continued that in the playoffs.
You've always talked privately about wanting to respect sort of Brownie's legacy.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if you draw any comparables at all. You were the face of the franchise at different times.
Yeah.
You wore the captaincy.
Yeah.
And you see him now.
Yeah, but I'm not sure anybody's going to be able to compete with Brownie on that aspect because he was a captain of the Stanley Cup teams. Until someone can come in and do that in multiple Stanley Cups, I mean, it is amazing what he's been able to do here and consistently do it. I think that last week was real hard on him because the last thing he wanted to be was a distraction, so he wasn't sure how to play that out. But he understood I think the respect the players had in it, and if that was his decision, they wanted to be recognized for that. I think the players and management and organization wanted to recognize him for it, but we were also trying to get in the playoffs, so there's a whole bunch. But his legacy overall is, he'll be outside the crypto center one day with a cup over his head because that's what he deserves.
That press conference, was it one of the more emotional sort of things that you had been part of, just seeing all the players up there and the kids on stage?
And the way it was, and the timing of it and everything, it really came together the last 24 hours there. But I know it was weighing on. You could see something was weighing on him. He didn't want to tell a lot of us what was going on. But then from that point, I saw him switch back into playoff mode, and you saw it in a lot of those games. He was one of our more physical forwards in a different role that probably he would have been in last time he was in the playoffs.
How do you think the conversation with Quentin's going to go?
Yeah.
Because he wasn't, he's a first round pick, but he wasn't effective down the stretch. Didn't play in the playoffs. So how do you think that conversation is going to go?
There's a lot to learn. It's hard, but he's 19 years old. He could be playing in Sudbury. Like I think at the end of the day, when we look back, he's gained a lot being here. I thought he had a tremendous camp, and everyone was watching. Okay, he's gonna come in. He's gonna take in that spot right away. Then he suffers that injury, and it takes a while to come back. We saw Akil Thomas went through two shoulder surgeries last year, and he came back in his first 10 or 15 games. It was a real struggle at the American League level, and then he ends up leading the team in playoff goals. So injuries do set back when it's that amount of time. The other guy that went through that same type of injury when I'm talking about, Alex Edler. I mean, he was 4 months. If you look at his ankle, the two surgeries on both sides, and he was coming back, but we really hadn't progress him to a point where we thought he was going to get into the lineup, and we had suffered multiple injuries on the back end, and he went to Todd, and he was the one that said he wanted to play. So whether he was 100%, I could tell you he wasn't, but that type of character, and then that's what got him in that lineup, and then he was in there to stay. But you can see players look at him when he came in, and they're like, oh, this is what you got to do to be able to do this level. So tribute to him.